We're on the record.
Good afternoon, everyone. I guess I'll call our case here in Nevada, case D-636-916, the Bonilla matter. And hello to you, Judge Cassidy.
Hello.
Parties, if you would state your appearances, starting in our case, Mr. Bonilla is the plaintiff. If you could please state your name for the record, sir.
Yes, it's George Bonilla.
And ma'am, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Bonilla.
Thank you. And we have another party, sir. If you can please state your name.
Rob Ashley.
And it's my understanding, Mr. Ashley, that you are saying you are the party who actually has legal custody of the minor children.
Yes, I do. I have court paperwork here in California stating that.
And okay, do you have a case number where an order was issued stating that you have custody?
Yes, I actually uploaded it to the this document yesterday. They sent me a link to it. I actually uploaded it, all the documentation to that.
Did you upload it to California, that case?
No, to you guys. I actually spoke with your clerks, I think it was Tuesday. They sent me the link to add it, and I actually added it yesterday. All my paperwork.
Okay, I will look for that. Mr. Cassidy, do you have a position on this matter? It sounds like the children are in California, and this, Mr. Ashley is saying that he has custody of them in California. We have a new petition filed for warrants to pick up the children, a return order of the children, and a motion for custody of the children here in Nevada.
Yes, under Mr. Ashley and Ms. Amanda Ashley have filed petitions for guardianship in our case, and it is PR-21-001209. And based on declaration previously offered by Robbie and Amanda Ashley, temporary custody order was in fact issued in their favor over the four named children, Mia Ann, Iris, Gorgeous, and Liz Anna. And they are scheduled to be back before us on Tuesday, December 7th. And part of the petition for guardianship filed by the Ashleys was a declaration under the UCCJEA. However, that is incomplete, in which in thinking about, I wasn't completely sure what issues would be raised. I was sort of guessing. But the question would need to be, what has been the historical home of the children? And the declaration under the UCCJEA should have included that information. However, it did not. So I have no information about where the children have been for the past 5 years. It's represented that both the parents are in Nevada. It was represented that the mother asked the Ashleys to take custody of the children because of instability in her residence and the residence of Mr. George Bonilla. And this is a guardianship case. In California, a guardianship case would normally take precedence over a family law matter. I don't know what the status of that is in Nevada.
It's the same.
But it sounds like initially what we need to do is find out what is the home state of these children.
Correct. So, Madam Clerk, can you swear in all of the parties, please, so that everyone is under oath?
Please raise your right hand. Do each of you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
So I guess I will just ask you, Mr. Bonilla, you've filed most of the pleadings in this case, and your argument is that the children have resided primarily with you, and this was just a recent move by mom to California. So can you please tell me, sir, the time frames that the children were in your custody?
Since we moved out into Nevada, they've been in both of our, Jennifer and myself's custody, up until August of this year when Jennifer left the household. And then they were just primarily in my care from that time forward, up until October 25th.
Okay. And you filed your complaint for divorce in our case in October of this year, October 26th, and your motion for custody on October 27th. So it's your testimony, basically, that the children were in your custody, both of you, I guess, for 6 months immediately before filing your motion, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Ma'am?
Yes,
When were the children removed from the state of Nevada?
on October 25th.
And as Judge Cassidy mentioned, is it true that you then requested that Mr. Ashley take care of the children and have them in his custody in California?
Yes, that is accurate.
And Judge Cassidy, did you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Because typically, just like in California, here in Nevada, we would defer to the guardianship case and wait until that matter has been resolved. But it appears to me, just based on his very short testimony, that the children were removed basically a couple of months ago, and Nevada would have been and should be the home state of the children, meaning that Nevada should handle jurisdiction. Unless, of course, we get to the next step, which is inconvenient forum, or whether it's appropriate for me to decline jurisdiction based on the filing of the guardianship case. So I was going to ask you, Mr. Judge Cassidy, when that case was filed, but it was probably pretty recent if the children were just removed at the end of October.
October 29th.
Okay.
So if I may, there was questions raised allegations raised by the Ashleys that neither mother or father had stable residence, and that necessitated the children being put into the custody of the Ashleys. And I think we're all agreeing that Nevada would be considered the home state. I guess there's the question of the bottom line safety and well-being of the children to be returned to Nevada. And if in fact there is some safe and stable residence to take them in there.
And ma'am, I see you shaking your head no. Can you please speak on that? Is there a safe place here in Nevada for the children?
No, there is not, because for the last 6 months or more, George Bonilla has received eviction notices every month consistently because he hadn't been paying the rent until 2 to 3 weeks into the month. And so he was constantly messaging me and telling me that I'm getting evicted, you need to come and get your stuff. So when he told me on the 23rd, I believe, that he was being evicted, even though he'd paid rent, he was still being told by the owner to leave the residence, that they no longer wanted to deal with him. And he sent a message to my mother saying he was planning on taking the girls and never allowing anyone to speak to them or see them ever again. And that's not a stable way to live. So I asked my sister and her husband, who have lived in their residence for several years, who have had a stable job, stable home, and who George Bonilla and I have asked to watch the girls for extended periods of time, up to a week, to stay with them. So I contacted them and I said, hey, they have nowhere to live here in Nevada. Please help me. Please help my daughters be somewhere safe. And that's when this whole process began. It was because he did not have a stable home for them anymore.
Sir, would you like to add to that, Mr. Bonilla?
Okay, just the claims for eviction are false. I have 0 evictions on my record. They were receiving the 30-day notice to consider moving out, but there weren't eviction notices. The eviction notice would have came in after the 30 days if I hadn't moved out. But since I'm in good payment standings with the company, like I'm still here, it's still a stable household, and I have a stable employment plus an increase in my employment's role in job performance and job role.
Mr. Ashley, is there anything you would like to add? It's been represented that you've been asked by both parents before to care for the children, and this was an emergency situation for their safety.
Yeah, I basically, as far as their situation, living style, I don't know who was in the, he's saying they weren't evicted, she's saying they were. I'm going purely on the reason why I filed for temporary custody is when we actually received the girls. Some were underweight and malnourished from what I've seen. Their hygiene was very unkept. We had to do a lot of cleaning and actually making sure they were back to where they should be as normal children. They would actually be stealing food and hiding it in rooms as if they weren't allowed to eat. I told them, guys, eat whenever you want to. It's not a big deal. They would lock doors behind them. They seemed like they were uncomfortable and kind of scared, and we had to kind of break them out of things that obviously they were living in, the people they were living around, and people who were around them at their home. They did not feel safe being left home alone at nighttime while their dad worked night shifts, or people hanging out at their house from what I got with the girls. That is why I'm saying they are not in a safe household, from my experience. And this isn't a recent thing. It's been years where the parents have not supported or supplied them with a safe household without the assistance of other people paying their rent for them on a regular basis for years.
And Jennifer, he brought up a good point. Just really quickly, from my understanding, you did mention something about a very strict diet and fasting for multiple hours at a time, and the girls basically starving. Can you testify a little bit about what the food situation is for the children here in Nevada?
It's not good. My ex, George Bonilla, he encourages this diet that he created by mixing something called the plant food paradox along with ketogenics, which results in him encouraging our daughters to try to make 24 hours of fasting. Our second born, Iris Bonilla, believes she's fat because her sisters are all thinner than her, and because she's naturally built larger, and she always would say, I'm fat. Well, my youngest, I had to make it a game because I was not allowed to just give them food, because he'd come home and they'd be like, Daddy, I ate a donut today, and he would lecture them and me about how unhealthy that was. Or I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at school, and he would lecture us about how that was junk food and not something they should eat. And they were even afraid to eat the food from school because they didn't want to come home and have Dad be displeased with them for eating junk food, which the school deemed healthy for them to eat. But like for my youngest, the most common sentence you would hear her say is, I'm hungry. And I didn't know what else to do, so I would joke with her and say, hi, hungry, I'm Mom. And that was normal for us. I wouldn't even have food. He would get mad if I didn't make a 3-day fast, 72 hours without eating. He would make me feel fat and like it wasn't okay. So I really don't feel that the girls were in a situation, but I didn't have much control over it. I felt powerless, like there was nothing I could do. I didn't move out because I wanted to. I moved out because he made me feel like I had to. And I didn't want to leave my girls behind, but I had to because I couldn't afford them. And so when he had said that he was getting evicted, I did what I had to keep them safe. And I might have overreacted, but my seriously, my daughters, like, they sound happy on the phone now. The pictures of them, like, their faces look full and beautiful, and they don't look like kids who are starving anymore. And I'm so grateful that that's happening for them. I don't want them here in Nevada. It's not safe.
Can I add something real quick, Judge? I'm sorry about that. I've actually added them to my medical insurance already, so I've actually taken the doctor appointments, and they are underweight on some of them. I have some reports from the doctors for that. As far as them being in my possession, they have gained weight. Their faces are fuller. They actually are eating a more balanced and even food. And I do let George and Jenna both talk to the kids every single night, almost without any kind of interruptions I possibly can. And every time that we do talk to George, he does strictly put down whatever food I feed the kids. If they mention anything about enjoying anything, he automatically lectures about how it's bad, unsafe, and not okay. Even though our doctor has actually gone, oh, with the kids, it's okay to eat that. It is safe for you to eat this. And they are so, I want to use the word brainwashed, that they actually don't feel like food is safe for them to eat unless it's a certain particular thing, which for children is not the most healthy way for a child to live.
Judge Butler, may I make a suggestion?
Of course.
We're scheduled, as I mentioned, to be back on next Tuesday, the 7th, on our guardianship case. And I would offer that it seems like we would all benefit by having some more objective information about what's going on and what might be in the best interest of these children. On the Tuesday, I could order our court investigator to conduct an investigation. Certainly the oldest of these children, Mia, is 13. She could certainly give a competent statement as to what have been the circumstances in which they live. And the 8-year-old Iris could, I would expect, also be able to do at least as much, and possibly even George's. We could also then ask for the additional information that has been referenced here, including the emails or text messages that Ms. Bonilla mentioned regarding the statements attributed to Mr. Bonilla regarding the eviction status. And then further, within the initial investigation that was done as part of this case, it was alleged that father has threatened suicide twice in the past 6 months. So there's a good deal of information that it seems like both courts might benefit from before we make a decision on this.
I agree. So, and you are handling the guardianship matters, so I would defer to you with that. So we can just set a status check for us on the chamber calendar after that December 7th date, which is just next week.
Okay. I'll communicate, if I may, with your assistant, and well, I have her email address.
Okay.
So once we've generated a minute order from Tuesday's hearing, I'll have the minute order sent to you, and then I'll have the matter returned in approximately 60 days from the December 7th date for the receipt of the court investigator's report, and I will forward that to you as well. And if there's need for any further information, we can go from there at that time, if that's agreeable.
Thank you, and that is definitely agreeable. For the record, this matter shall be stayed pending the outcome of those initial guardianship proceedings in California. So there will be nothing happening here. I'll review the minute order once received. If I need to make any type of orders on the papers, I will do that as well. But I will yield to you, Judge Cassidy, while you're handling the guardianship based on the testimony regarding the emergency, safety, and the best interest of the children. Oh.
That sounds fine. Thank you very much. May I ask, I've not put this hearing on our calendar, so we don't have a hearing memorialized for this. If I could ask if you might be willing to send me a copy of your minute order that I will include in our file, and also if it's convenient, will you be making a transcript of these proceedings?
Yes, we will. How long will it take, Madam Clerk? We will get that to you, Judge, by Monday.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for your time today.
Thank you.